She seems so relaxed. So relaxed. Hello, everybody. My name is Glenn Goodfellow. And I would like to tell you a story about that one time I discovered I was gay. So before I get to an incident that actually really culminated in that moment, we have to go back farther. So much farther. Probably to 1986. Me and my two brothers are in a baby blue minivan with wood paneling on the side, driving down a street through the suburbs of Chicago. And if anybody here has children or you are around children, you know they ask questions all the time, right? Why do cats sound like that? And why do dogs sound like that? And is an orange named after the color? And so as an adult around children, you have to answer questions all the time, on the fly. And for the most part, they just tend to be like, whatever. But occasionally, a full-on anvil just falls from the sky. This was one of those days. So there's Karen Goodfellow driving that minivan. And my younger brother asks, just out of nowhere, "Mom, what's a homosexual?" And bless her heart, she was doing the best that she could. And so, without taking her eyes off of the road, occasionally swatting back at the kids in the back seat, she said, and this was her answer, and I, of course, remember it so clearly. I was probably 8 years old. And she said, "Well, when two men are homosexuals, they're in a relationship, much like your father and I." And to be honest, that's a nice way to describe it. But she didn't stop there. She said, "And one of the men is just like anybody else. You would never know anything was different. And the other man plays the woman." It made total sense at the time. So that was my true introduction. And believe it or not, I literally do not recall ever hearing anybody talk about somebody who was gay, who was homosexual, literally for almost 10 years. I mean, I know for people who grew up with the internet, you can't comprehend how much information comes at you now, but there was a time when you did not have access to gay stuff. Pornography was so hard to get. And I literally did not meet a person who was like, "I'm a gay person," until my sophomore-ish year of college. And to be honest, I met him, and he was so unlike myself. He was just so different that I was like, oh, then I guess maybe I'm not gay. I mean, I'm super into that new Donna erotica album, and I love me some antiques. But I guess that's it. And in a funny way, when you don't have other gay people around you and you actually haven't done anything with anybody and you're kind of a late bloomer, it's like I wasn't in the closet. I just didn't have anybody else who is gay. So now, like I said, we're fast forwarding in time, like you do when you're an undergraduate in college. I lived with 7 people in one apartment, 5 women, 2 guys. And somebody came home and said, "Glenn, oh my gosh, I just saw this sign downtown. And there's this new store opening up. It looks super fabulous. It's like all sorts of clothes. Everybody's talking about it. You have got to get a job there." And I was like, "I've been looking for a job for this summer. This is the perfect time." And I was like, "What's it called?" And they said, "It's called Old Navy." I was hooked. Anchors away. So I went down there and I applied for that job. It paid $7.25 an hour. And I said, that's going to get me far. And I was in. And so now, keep in mind, Old Navy it did not exist. It was the first store, the flagship store in Chicago, in the entire Midwest. It was 4 stories tall. There was a restaurant. It was just opulence, total opulence in all directions. And when they pulled those headsets out, I was set. And so this was the first time, in fact, it was the only time that I worked retail. And so thinking of this week and talking about what we've been talking about and thinking about queer spaces, it really made me think about the year 1998 when I was 20 years old, effortlessly thin. Oh, effortlessly thin. Bless it. And I got that job, and it was my first time being surrounded by fabulous women and fabulous retail queens in all directions. So many beautiful Twinkie boys everywhere. And so that store opens, and I was so into it. I was into customer service. I could fold you a pair of khakis and put them on a shelf like no one's business. And those boys were just all so cute. Now, I have to say that the store had opened. We literally helped open the store, but everything was pointing towards the grand opening. It was happening in 2 weeks just after we started. And so the grand opening, if you remember like the advertising campaign for Old Navy, remember like George and Wheezy from the Jeffersons and Morgan Fairchild, all this weird stuff. Kate Donovan from Vogue magazine, wasn't gay. And so they were like, they're all gonna be at the opening. You've got to come to the open. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to serve Morgan Fairchild meatballs at the opening. I've got to be there. And so while all of this is happening, there is a gentleman who also worked at Old Navy, and his name was Eduardo. He was from the Dominican Republic, beautiful brown skin, and he had this accent that was just a dream. Remember that band called Jamiroquai? Yeah, I was super into it. It was kind of disco-y. And turns out he was into it too. Oh my gosh, we have so much in common. And when he would say the name of that group, he would say, Jamiroquai? Yeah, and the pants just fell right off. And so Eduardo had also signed up to work the opening at Old Navy. We were super excited. So it was like a Saturday night. We had to come dressed in this very specific outfit, and there were like 25 of us that were there. And the mayor of Chicago was there. It was this big affair. And so because in the 90s, the 70s were kind of a thing. It was like a 20s flashback. You might recall that like disco was a big thing. And the pinnacle of this grand opening was the fact that Donna Summer herself was coming to the store and singing. This is real, folks. This is the real deal. Whew. So here we go. It's showtime. Me and my queens, we're on. Hold on. And so what we're doing is basically they're like, okay, we're going to need 10 people on the floor. We're going to need 2 kids in apparel and children's upstairs, and the rest of you will just sit downstairs. So I'd work the shift. Morgan Fairchild, would you like a meatball? She's like, I don't eat meatballs, thank you. I said, your suit's lovely. And so I was one of probably 15 people who were downstairs waiting for our turn to go back up. And it was about 9:15, 9:30. Somebody walks in. It's the manager of the store, along with somebody else who looked very official. And this is what they say to us. So we're sitting. This looks so scripted. It's not. Everybody, we're having such a fabulous opening. We're so appreciative of what you're here for. We're really excited to announce that Donna Summer has arrived. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And something kind of funny has happened, and that is that there is a clause in Donna Summer's contract that she cannot physically be seen by anybody before she performs. Right? Total, just like diva action. And granted, even the 90s, I mean, she was still Donna Summer. She was big, but it wasn't like we're going to mob her and tear her weave off. So they said, so we have a problem. She has to pass through here, and also she needs to use the restroom. And so we're like, well, that's really exciting news. Thanks so much for letting us know. And they said, oh no, the only restroom is here in the break room where you're sitting, this rando break room in the basement of an Old Navy in Chicago in 1998. And there's really nowhere else for you to go, so we're trying to figure out a solution. And then you could see the gears turning, and basically it was like this. Everybody, we need you to go into this janitorial closet so Donna Summer can use the restroom. This is, I'm not kidding, it's real. And so then it was like, wait, are you serious? So it was like me, Eduardo, and these random people, and then it's like not a closet that's like, oh, it's full of clothes. It's full of like, you know, where you pour the slop water from the bucket, and like there's a mop, there's one exposed light bulb, so unflattering. And so then it was like, okay, we really are going to go into this closet. And someone just started going, toot toot, yeah, beep beep. Just like that. Toot toot, yeah. In fact, let's do that together. Toot toot, yeah. Beep beep. Just one more time. Toot toot, yeah. Beep. Bad girls. So then we get packed into this closet, and it's so tiny, and there's so many of us, right? And then we're all just kind of there, just like, this is so bizarre and just so random. And then she was taking a long time, and then there was a lot of jokes if she's taking a number 2, and this and that. And then for whatever reason, like somebody fell or shifted or something, and we all kind of like bounced around. And Mr. Eduardo was standing kind of like behind me off to the side in the closet. And I fell, and he reached out, and he put his hand like right on my hip. He just caught me when I fell. And when I turned, it was like there he was. And there was his hand. And that was like the very first time that any man has ever reached out and touched me. And it sounds so cheesy when people talk about like, oh, there's fireworks when you meet this person, you feel these things. And it was the first time I felt that electric charge of like, oh my gosh, this is so real. This is it. It was fantastic. And I looked at him and he looked at me. And then 2 seconds later, that door threw open and that was it. That was the extent of it. And so when I think back about my own journey to become the guy that I am today, gay, I think about that environment that I was in that was just so welcoming and so fabulous. Just like from Antoine, who could take shirts on hangers and twirl them like he was at a rave party. And I was like, that's just the most glamorous thing. But ultimately, how funny it was that that encounter, of course, Eduardo's hands were all over me by the end of that summer. But was I lucky or was he lucky? But of course, I will always think about the fact that I had to actually literally go into the closet to realize that I had to come out of the closet not too long after. Thank you so much, everybody.